Welcome, 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 one and all. Bringing you episode 1.2, 2.2 of Cut Ups. We're here talking through the second half of Michigan's 30-3 victory over East Carolina. Good performance overall. Things to learn from this game. Again, it's one game, but if you didn't catch part one, Trevor and I walked through the first half. Lots of great plays from that. So go check that out. Should be on our YouTube channel. But today we're going through the second half. Won't cover a good portion of the fourth quarter where a lot of the backups came in, but there's plenty to go through before that point. I think we got about 13, 15 plays here to walk through solo for me today. And let's just get right into the analysis. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, anything like that, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll get to them when I can. Let me make sure I shift over the view. This is probably the best view, right? What was the other one? This one. Let's go full screen today. Let's do that. All right. Let me make sure I got everything going here. Let me make sure you can hear me. Dylan Girk, what's good? Toski, good to see you. Welcome to the stream. Go Blue. What's good? Hope everyone's having a great Labor Day. Nice to spend it with you fine folk here on this Monday without work, right? That's great. Okay, second half. We're here. Let's figure it out. Let's see what we can do. All right, first play of the second half here that I'm clipping at least. Actually, this is the first play, second half. And we get stopped short. You have a pull here from your left guard, Keegan, and things just kind of get bottled up here a little bit, right? So let's see what actually happens. What's going on with the blocking scheme? So you're pulling your left guard. Everyone else is down blocking to the left on the play side. So you're pulling Keegan. Keegan is going this way. You have a lead block here. Bredesen, he's going to kick out one-on-one block here. What we're looking for here, 1, 2, 3, 4, they're just down blocking, right? Cover this gap left from your guard going to the left. And that's the overall blocking scheme. So what could be improved here? Trent Jones, 53 here, needs to get his head across on this block, right? Your goal on down blocking here is to get your head across here. Don't let anyone through, because you want your puller here to come down across the line, have a clean path here so he can beat the fullback to the point, right? You want them both to be able to get out there. But because of 53, Trent Jones not getting his head across, look at that penetration. And now Keegan is blocked up, right? He's not able to get around this. Bredesen has to take this on, and now there's going to be no path for Keegan to really get through there. So now look at the stutter step, and there's no room for Blake Corum to run here because this play is still developing. Bredesen gets a block here, but Keegan hasn't even gotten out to the linebacker here. The offensive line has been reset. Now Keegan can get that block, but at this point, there's so much room, right? This is displaced 2.5 yards into the backfield. So that's not really what you want, right? Number 4, able to make a play. So you'd like to see Cornelius Johnson do a better job here on this block, right? He's looking right here, trying to take this cornerback with him, try to take 2 guys out with 1 block, right? This guy might think he's on a route, so he's going to follow. But Cornelius Johnson needs to do a better job blocking there, right? Number 4 just really easily dispels him and able to pick up the tackle. So it's not the best job blocking, but it is blocked through until you get to number 4, right? Keegan does an admirable job to pick up that block if Cornelius Johnson is here blocking, right? If he's able to pick up this block and this guy's not in the play, then you have a little bit of running room, right? You might only get a couple of yards because you have a couple of guys flowing to the play here, but it's not the loss or the 0-yard gain that ends up being. And instead, it just takes a couple blocks to really blow this up, and you'd like to see both Trent Jones and Cornelius Johnson do a better job. I think that's the main thing we're missing with Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell was a phenomenal blocker, really phenomenal blocker. So we saw it with Roman Wilson on a couple plays last night in the first episode of Film Review. This one, we see Cornelius Johnson not picking up a block where he needs to. So if you want playing time, generally being a good blocking wide receiver is a way to get that. So that 3rd, 4th wide receiver, because Cornelius Johnson and Roman Wilson haven't shown the best blocking, that's the way they're going to see playing time and establish that third or fourth spot off the bench here. James Sullivan is a good question. What can we really learn looking at film after the game is essentially over? I mean, you can learn a lot. Who's performing well? Who needs to improve? Where will the coaching staff look at next on who to sub in? Whose positions are potentially at risk? And where can players improve? Just like that scenario, where can Michigan really improve? There were a few runs where running back success was limited by the lack of wide receiver blocking. And that's one area of improvement. If they can start to get more consistent blocking from the wide receivers, you'll start to see a lot more success. There was a couple plays Donovan Edwards was tackled at an 8-9 yard gain. And you might look at that at the surface and be like, oh, that was a good pickup. But if Roman Wilson on that play picks up a block, if Khalil Mullings does a better job out of the backfield, that's a touchdown. And the difference between a 9-yard pickup and a touchdown could be the difference in the game. So that's really why I look at it, is who can improve, who who did well, give them the credit, and who are the newcomers or the veterans that are doing things right, and why are they doing things right. So I think there's a lot you can learn here. Okay, here we got 2nd and 8. And this was an excellent response to the aggressiveness of ECU. I brought this up a lot in the first episode with Trevor here, but this is taking advantage of your running back threat, right? There was on the podcast with Josh and Trevor and Brock, they're mentioning, you shouldn't always run into a brick wall. And I think the tendency of the team has been to establish the run. We're going to run the ball on you. But at a certain point, you have to realize, hey, the defense is really selling out. And when the defense is really selling out, that opens up other opportunities. And this is as good of a run, right? This is as simple as a run where you don't need to really get any blocks here to make this play successful. This looks like just like the last play, right? Outside of the pole, you have Max Bredesen coming down the line of scrimmage here. What is this guy thinking, right? He's thinking he is coming out and blocking him just like this happened on the last play. Instead, he's not blocking. He's just heading out to the flat, right? This is a very simple play action pass, turn around, boom, easy throw to the flat, and you pick up an easy first down. But the main thing, if we look back, just watch every single defender on the second and third level here react to this initial motion here from Blake Corum, right? All the linemen are going to the left. It looks like zone blocking. Look at how far up everyone is at this point, right? Everyone has sold out here towards this running motion. So when you have Max Bredesen going this way, let's see how long it takes for one of these guys here, right? One of these guys to actually react to the play action, right? Boom. That's about the earliest that you see 32 here. He's realizing, oh, crap, this is my guy, right? And the momentum for Max Bredesen's already taking him out this way. Look at all of this empty space because of the threat of Blake Corum. And that's how you win in the passing game, because of a defense's resilience in stopping the run game. You just take advantage of that, right? That's an easy pitch and catch. Boom. Get the ball right at the line of scrimmage. Easy 10 yards. Easy. He doesn't get touched until 12 yards, and it's a 15-yard gain, right? So I really like to see that from a play calling perspective. Jim Harbaugh and Sherrone Moore weren't there for this game, but it's clear that when certain things aren't going right in the run game, there are answers. And I think Michigan will continue to add wrinkles for that, where if a team really wants to sell out against the run, you can have a really easy changeup, and that's what having a good, dependable fullback like Max Bredesen can give you in the passing game. Here, good run from Blake Corum. I think it could have been even better, but this, I think, was subtly a really nice run. Let me see if I have a better angle here. Let's go with this angle first and see what we're doing here. So zone blocking, really good job to set up a couple players here. And I think this was the most like Blake Corum 2022 run that we saw, where I really like the eyes here and the gear down, right? So a couple blocks on the play side here. Colson Loveland getting out onto 32. You got a combo block on number 3. Keegan's going to release to the second level after helping out your left tackle, Carson Barnhart, and then he's going to get out to number 6 here. And watch the gear down at that just play side. So there, Keegan. Keegan is looking out for his second block here, but watch the gear down of Blake Corum, right? He's just going to wait a little bit. He's forcing number 6 here to commit. Boom, this is the hole, right? And Keegan recognizes that. He's going to take him out. Then Blake Corum continues, makes that cut, right? Number 6 is committed. He's out of the play now. And now Blake Corum is on to the next hole, right? He identifies this is the next hole. He knows there's going to be number 4 in this. So he's going to look like he's just going straight. Once number 4 is too committed here, right? Look at how vertical number 4 is here. What I mean by vertical, he should be breaking down right here, right? Blake Corum hasn't really committed yet. He hasn't really decided which way he's going, but the momentum, right? Just look at the body language here between the two. Blake Corum's getting low, right? He's loading up, and number 4 is continuing on his momentum, and you're cooked in the hole right there. Boom. Too much momentum going one way. Blake Corum's already cutting the other way, able to dispel that and get an extra few yards. So good job from him to make a couple guys miss, right? And this is the patient running. I think this is the running that we're used to seeing from Blake Corum. It's nice to see that patience be able to still be there in the eyes for Blake Corum, able to set up his blocks effectively. And I think he trusted this left side more a little bit. I think Barnhart generally had a bit better day than Miles Hinton. Is Miles Hinton still? Yeah, Miles Hinton is still 78. Is that Henderson now? Or is that still Miles Hinton? I have to look up the numbers. I'm not great at the numbers yet of the offensive line. But yeah, what else on this play can we learn here? You'd like to see a little bit better job of Nugent here, number 60, right? He's not doing the best job on this defensive tackle. He is getting a little bit of penetration there, almost gets this play backside. So not the most comfortable block there from Nugent. But beyond that, everyone blocks this about as well as you could. So I would say this is about the maximum that you could pick up on this play. So yeah, Nugent, you could do a little bit better job there, but nice subtle cuts here from Corum, able to start and stop on the dime and picked up pretty much the maximum on that play. So nice to see him. I think as you get more reps, get more time, that confidence will come back for Blake Corum. Shady Villo 3, welcome, says, I thought Campbell did a great job calling the game. You could tell he's an experienced play caller. Absolutely he did. And I think it's great to see different guys be able to step up in the game, right? Different players be able to see time in these early games. It's cool to see these coaches call different games as well and see how they perform in those elevated roles with Jim Harbaugh and Sherman Moore out for this first game. So this is one where, I'd say commendable job from Blake Corum, but I think he needed to hit the hole here. What I mean by this is I haven't seen this play, I don't think, but just a little quick pitch to Blake Corum. And there's certain scenarios where you want a guy to cut back. There's other scenarios where you need to put your foot in the ground and go, right? And I think this is one where if you're Blake Corum, you need to hit that, right? You just need to get the ball and go and realize that, right? You have a quick 2-on-1 block, Colson Loveland and this wide receiver. I'm not sure exactly who that is. Let me back up and see who that is. Is that Frederick Moore? Looks like Frederick Moore. So a little duo block there. Or no, who's number 8? I'm not sure who that is. But anyway, so you have a little combo block here. You have Colson Loveland getting out onto number 6, right? There's a crease here. And he has to hit it, right? I like his ability to get out there compared to number 3, right? Beat him to that spot, right? That's a defensive end. You should be able to hit that as a running back and be able to see this crease and go, right? Because then you got a block here, should have a block here, and eventually the wide receiver will come back with the combo block from Loveland to get to the safety. You can see safety is going to come down here as well. So you're blocked pretty much through the safety. You should have everything you need on the outside here to hit this and be able to make this a successful play. So I didn't really like to see this cutback lane for Corum. I think he was just trying to do a little bit too much, right? You got a lot more bodies, and you should expect a lot more bodies on a quick pitch like this to be flowing down the line of scrimmage. So this cutback lane isn't going to yield as much success as the straight line. So I think, again, as Blake Corum gets more comfortable, trusts his reads a little bit more, not only is he getting sped back up with his body, he's getting sped back up with his eyes and his mind. And that takes time just to develop and to get back into that rhythm. So I think this is one where he probably wants back, right? Where he left a little bit of yards on the field here. Barner picked up a decent block. Like everything's there for this to be a way bigger pickup than what Blake Corum got out of it. So So yeah, I mean, everyone makes mistakes, right? And I think we've been spoiled by Blake Corum in the past, but when you have a setback like an injury like that, there are certain things that just take some time to develop back into your repertoire. Sorry about this graphic on this next play. If I could control it, I would. This is Peacock being really late on getting this play. But this is Donovan Edwards kind of hitting that gear. He still does so this, let me preface this. This isn't the same play that we just saw with Blake Corum, but it's a little bit more emphatic with his speed, right? This jet sweep like this, similar to the quick pitch we just saw for Blake Corum, the goal for this play is just to get out there quickly, right? There's not going to be a huge cutback lane. You need to step on it because you're going to have a lot of players flowing, right? A lot of players backside are going to be flowing, and getting speed through here is the primary goal. That this is, hitting the hole and going. There's not going to be a big cutback lane because of all the flow, because everyone is moving. It's not you're trying to race them to the hole essentially on these sort of stretch or jet sweep plays. So let's look at how it's blocked, right? Commendable job here from this defender, keeping his outside arm free, really muddying up the outside. Barner's going to pick this up, and I think this is supposed to go around to the outside. But there is a crease that Donovan Edwards sees, right? You have a couple defenders really flying up here, kind of establishing this edge, right? You could argue there's still space out here. If he continues on this track, right, you should have this blocked. You probably like his speed against number 6 here. This is a linebacker. But there is a crease forming here, right? This is where Keegan's getting this block on number 6. So he's going to gear down. You should have enough blocks on number 40 here. You have offensive lineman. I think that's who is that? Zinter. Or no, that's Nugent. So Nugent, you'd like to see him do a little bit better job. He does pick up a good block on number 5 there. So decent enough job on his end. So it is blocked pretty much to the safety here, right? So not a bad cut. Overall, guys were on bodies picking up blocks, and he still picks up 11 yards. So I would still call this a successful play. But again, maybe there's more potential on the outside. Khalil Mullings, I think, does a good job picking up that block, assisting here with the left tackle block. Barnhart picking up that block. Khalil Mullings assisting. So I think the main difference I want to show with this play and the previous play with Blake Corum is on these quick attack the outside plays, you should do one cut and boom, go, right? There isn't a big cutback lane that's going to form. And I think that's more suited towards Donovan Edwards' style of running than Blake Corum in general. This one, picked up the maximum, I would say. Maybe there's potential on the outside. You could argue that, but pretty good, successful play here. All right, 2nd and 11. This one, I put this one I thought was really interesting, not because of the lack of success, but the missed opportunity. A good point here from John here in the chat. I don't know how many times I heard in the first breakdown and now in this one where Nugent could have done better. He didn't have a great game. He didn't. There's a lot of improvement he could have. I think he's getting ramped up. It's a lot as a center, more so than almost any other position on the field to get ramped up quickly with a new team. But yeah, I think the physicality, I think the speed of the game, I think he got rocked back a little bit more than I would like to see. So it's a little bit of a concern. Okay, so why am I clipping this play, right? Like one of the few negatives for JJ McCarthy. A couple things here. Am I concerned about the pass rush on this? I think so. A couple players here could have been doing a little bit better job. If we look at the right tackle here, it's Miles Hinton, 78. He gets just pure beat, right, off the edge here. This isn't the greatest job here. Blake Corum could have done a little bit better job on this pass rush, right? I think overall the protection is here. It's just a couple guys missing their blocks, and actually the Pirates are bringing one additional rusher that Michigan doesn't have accounted for, right? They're bringing Colson Loveland is getting an initial chip here, and then he's going out on a route. So you have one additional rusher for the number of blockers here for Michigan. So it's a good decision here from JJ McCarthy to duck out of this pocket. But Miles Hinton, let's look at his footwork and his hands here a little bit. This right tackle. Good initial kick step. He's getting depth. He just kind of I think he loses depth a little bit here by trying to punch this guy, right? There's no need. Watch Hinton's left arm here reach out. There's no reason to do that, right? Stay engaged with your rusher. Let the running back trust the running back that he's going to handle the free rusher coming through. That's not your job. Do your job. As a result of that reach out, right, now he's losing. He stands up a little bit too much. He's getting rocked back on the speed rush from 99. He's holding on for dear life. He probably should have gotten called for a hold there. So on the backside, Carson Barnhart, you'd like to see him do a little bit better job here as well. The guy, I think, is getting around the pocket at around 9 yards or so. So usually 9 to 10 yards, you're doing okay as an offensive lineman. But Miles Hinton just flat out loses that. And Blake Corum, if we watch his pass protection, he doesn't do the best job picking this up either. His guy eventually does fall, but he doesn't get the player 25 gets low and does a good job barreling through that block. So it's the correct decision here to duck out for JJ McCarthy. And again, that's part of his skill set, right? So good job from him to recognize, hey, this pocket is no longer good for me. He does see that Roman Wilson has some space, but it's not the right read. And the reason I say that, let's look at the route here now at the bottom of your screen for Cornelius Johnson. He's going to run a little fake slant boom, maybe a post corner, you could call that. So watch this where he puts on the post. You can see that the hips of the defensive back are starting to flip, and boom, there's a cut, right? You see that cut for Cornelius Johnson? Now let's shift to the other view where we can see how open Cornelius Johnson is at this point, right? Of course, it's zoomed in. We don't get a full scope of how open, but there's no one else in that corner, right? And you have to think that this is quite a bit of room for Cornelius Johnson, right? And you can see almost with the hands here for Cornelius Johnson, he's kind of extending his fingers. It's really minor. Maybe I'm reading into it a little bit much, but he's like, I'm open. And that's a lot of space between him and this defensive back. Like this is a lot of room. Even if we're zoomed in or not, he beat that guy on that route really well. And there was some frustration in the huddle afterwards between JJ McCarthy and Roman Wilson. And I think right here, JJ McCarthy sees it. I think JJ McCarthy, the throw was low, but then I think he also probably in discussion with Cornelius Johnson recognizes, I could have, if he was just a little bit more patient, right? He probably could have extended his eyes past this first route and looked towards the end zone. Because I think with, the good route running we saw from last year for Cornelius Johnson and this angle where we see this much space, there's no one back there. And there's plenty of room at this point to throw towards the corner of the end zone for Cornelius Johnson to get that TD. So missed opportunity, right? And I think that's what pressure can do to you, right? Given a little bit more time, a little bit more clean of a pocket, and JJ McCarthy is able to take his time more and not feel rushed to get the ball out towards Roman Wilson. In this case, he's probably rushed a little bit, saw that Roman Wilson had a little bit of a crease, right? It's not a terrible decision here. There's a lot of room there still. But I bet he felt a little bit rushed to get the ball out and missed an open Cornelius Johnson in the corner of the end zone. Okay, 3rd and 11, and we have a nice touchdown pass. Probably you could argue best throw of the day. I would say so, to Roman Wilson. And we see this concept a lot of Michigan sending a wide receiver in motion, especially these two, Roman Wilson and Cornelius Johnson, and then setting them on a levels concept. One of them will run a corner route, one of them will run an out route. And just really clever here for JJ McCarthy to look off the cornerback number 24 and then be able to throw the corner route. So right here, he recognizes that this route that Roman Wilson is on, right? You have a safety over the top. 24 is the key here, right? That's where the eyes are going. So he's going to key off of him. If he's able to bite up enough on this out route here for Cornelius Johnson, there's going to be space back there, right? So watch JJ McCarthy on his little pump fake, right? They call this out on the broadcast as well. But right there, just that little little motion, that little pump fake, and you can see 24 starting to open up his hips here, and he's opening up, he's rotating inwards to try to react to this little fake right here. So it's such a subtle little pointing of the feet, right? Good mechanics, take his hand off the ball. Looks like he's loading up, and that opens up just enough space for this ball for 24 to not be able to react to it. And that's just perfect ball placement, right? So I clipped this. I'll get to another angle, but I clipped this where JJ McCarthy's looking to celebrate with Cornelius Johnson, and you can see Cornelius Johnson kind of shy away from the high five. I think they're probably fine, right? It's just a little joking, but I think that gives a little bit more precedence to my theory that he's a little miffed that he missed him on the last play of not finding him in the corner of the end zone, right? He was like, oh, that should have been me last play, right? So anyway, I thought that was just a funny little thing. But there you can see the little fake, right? Just a little eye fake to throw off 24, that corner for ECU, and then delivers. I mean, you can't put a ball any better than this, right? Put it up only where your receiver can get it. Hell of a catch, too, for Owen Wilson to come down with that. And then let's see. Yep, here's a better look at the reaction of 24 at the pump fake, right? So you can see right about here's the pump fake for Cornelius Johnson, or for JJ McCarthy on this out route to Cornelius Johnson. You can see 24. His eyes are on JJ McCarthy. He's going to react just a little bit. You don't need a whole lot of room, but he's going to react just a little bit. And now look at how much space, just in that quarter second, look at how much space that's going to open up on this route, right? And that's all you need. That's all you need if you're JJ McCarthy to make that play and to make sure that he's going to be able to come down with it. So it's those subtle little things that I think we're seeing from JJ McCarthy. It's one game, but really nice to see that he's able to add these little things to his repertoire. And then if we go back just for looking at the pass block, it's only a 4-man rush here for ECU. So you're keeping in 5 against 4 here. Nothing crazy. They're doing a long developing stunt, right? ECU is, where they're sending 99 down the line, looping here. So you'd like to see Miles Hinton do a little bit better job reacting to that, right? Pass that guy off and then get some depth. He's doing a decent enough job on getting back out there, but maybe a little bit quicker. So yeah, just a really overall, I think one of the better plays of the day, and perfect throw. Shadyville, the question here, is it me or is the pass blocking ahead of the run blocking at this point? Agreed. I definitely think so. I think a couple players, I think Hinton had a tough day. There were a couple times where Nugent could have done a little bit better in the passing. Barnhart, I don't think, had the best day either. But yeah, and I think the main thing here is I do think Michigan is still shifting around their first 5, right? You have Ladarius Henderson, you have Carson Barnhart, you have a number of guys that we'll see next week as well at the tackle positions that we didn't see as much. Trent Jones, right? He'll shuffle in. So when you're shuffling around your tackles and your best 5, you have less time for cohesion for that unit. So as a result, I don't think you're going to be able to feel that run block cohesion that you really need to be an elite running offensive line right away. So I think it's going to take some time for them to gel. Once they find that starting 5, they should be able to develop that relatively quickly. Now, how quickly? It'll take a couple games. I don't think it'll be perfect right away, but it'll get better. Whereas pass blocking, it's a lot on the center, right? The center to set the protection, to be able to feel that out and to make the correct call on who's picking up who. There is still some communication there, but I agree with you. It does just seem like there is better pass blocking overall, but you have to also consider ECU is selling out against the run. A lot of how the defensive line in the second level was playing was to stop the run initially, and not necessarily go all out against the pass. So I think you're right that in this first game, we definitely saw a little bit more positives in the pass protection. But JJ McCarthy also did an excellent job when there was pressure to divert that, whether escaping the pocket or resetting the pocket. So yeah, I think it's going to work itself out. And there is going to be a couple games, as exactly as you said, Shadyville. That was my next point there, that you have a couple games, a couple teams to be able to try out different iterations of that offensive line and be able to do so with relative comfortability. And John Schultz says, at least Michigan doesn't have to rely on Josh Simmons on the O-line like Ohio State does. Yeah, I mean, the transfers and the guys that they were really struggling with Indiana there, especially on third down. So yeah, I mean, we'll see, right? Maybe Indiana has some dudes, but yeah, I think Michigan has a good number of guys. This was just a great lick out of Ernest Hausman, the transfer from Nebraska. Really good discipline on defense overall. Give a lot of credit to Keyshawn Harris here, 36 on the outside, right? He's coming on a corner blitz out here. So he's coming up here and he's able to see this this little reverse all the way, right? He's able to see that, keep his eyes up. And I really like how he breaks down here, right? He doesn't go all in. He knows the quarterback's here. So he's just going to break down and buy some time, right? On a little reverse like this, the biggest thing you can do is buy time for your defense to react to that. Give time for them to get out and work down the line. And that's Keyshawn Harris breaking down here, forcing this back inside, right? The biggest thing on a reverse is space. If this guy's able to get to the outside, look what you have, right? You have an offensive lineman getting out there. You have this wide receiver out. Excuse me. But if you force this guy back up inside, you have some defensive linemen who can work back. You have your linebackers who can work down the line. So it's a good job from Keyshawn Harris. Of course, him coming down on the blitz helps in this regard, but he does a good job disengaging with a quarterback and assisting on the tackle there. And then just really good disciplined eyes here for Ernest Hausman, right? If this is just a give here, right? Just a give going out this way for 47, you're backside linebacker, right? So keep your eyes up, work towards the backside, but then you're able to go down the line of scrimmage if anything comes back your way, right? Whether that is a reverse or it's a little cutback lane for 47, but it's just good technique. And Hausman, maybe he could do a one more shuffle instead of starting to run here. But it does a good job resetting, right? And look at when he's starting to react, look at his positioning versus the guy on the reverse, right? Not a whole lot of difference, right? If I draw a line on where they are on the line of the field, he's starting to react to this play, and he still has a good amount of space. So it's a really good job from him keeping his eyes in the play, and then he brings it. He is, I think Mike Barrett could be one of the biggest hitters on the team. I think Ernest Hausman's already established himself as a big hitter and just a really good foundational tackle here, wrapping up, decleating the guy and taking him down. So really athletic linebacker, really nice to see him this comfortable and performing this heady as I think he's the true sophomore. So for him to be able to come down the line of scrimmage like that, takes a perfect angle, he's going to be a dude. And I tweet out like a list of breakout players every year. He was number 2 on my list, I think, and I think he's going to do really big things. Him and Junior Colson, as well as Mike Barrett, makes this one of the better, more athletic linebacker rooms in recent Michigan history that I can think of. Harrell ran himself out of it, though. Luckily, team defense saved him. Yeah, that's true. That's true, and that's really rare, right? You usually don't see, and that's a good point. I should call that out. There's no reason, right, for Harrell to be running down the line of scrimmage like this, right? What are the odds here if this is truly a stretch play out here? What are the odds that you're going to be able to make that play? Not great, right? So if he keeps his eyes up and sees this action, right, he needs to be keeping his body pointed this way. So that's a good call out there from Derek Campbell here. Keep your hips, start shuffling. Just shuffle your way here. Keep your body pointed this way. Your eyes will tell you the story, and you should be seeing this happening and be aware of the potential of that coming backside here. So he does take himself out of that play. But Keyshawn Harris being there and Ernest Hausman, make the play there in the backfield. Hate to have to sit a captain, but Ernest needs to play. You can rotate linebackers, right? I think there's if you're not rotating your linebackers, that's a tough job, especially on this defense. And the more guys that you can rotate in there, the more fresh they'll be. And the more guys you can depend on, the better the whole team will be. So yeah, really, really good job from Hausman there, and give credit to Keyshawn Harris as well for setting that edge on the quarterback. All right, moving into middle of the third quarter here. And this is, again, taking the yards that the aggressive defense is giving you, right? There's nothing a whole lot that the defense is doing right on this. And kind of what we said about not establishing the edge, right? This is number 5, just getting a little greedy, right? And really the whole defense of ECU, look at how quick they are, right? To just barrel to the line of scrimmage, right? And that's really easy for Donovan Edwards to just bounce the outside, right? If you're not playing disciplined defense against Michigan, right, you can muddy up the inside all you want, but guess what? We're going to hit the edge, and there's Donovan Edwards, right? And he's going to make your angles look silly, and he's a 5-star athlete for a reason, right? So that's just an easy, it's not really even a whole lot to point out here. Just that you're catching ECU being a little bit too aggressive, and make that aggressiveness work against the defense, right? You don't need to. This is like I think I was thinking about this analogy yesterday, where if the defense wants to build a brick wall, right? And this is what I'm calling a brick wall, where it's just throw bodies at the line of scrimmage, cause chaos, throw, how many, this is 7 bodies right here, throw them all into the line of scrimmage, make this a mess, make this just a nightmare for your pullers to do. And guess what? Sometimes the best solution isn't to break through the brick wall, but just to run around it, right? If they want to be aggressive, let them. Play action and outside runs in these scenarios is going to be your best friend. And that's great recognition of that, right? And what does this do? When you show this, and when you take advantage of this, the next time that you see this action, right, that these linebackers, that these edge players see this sort of action from your offensive line, from Bredesen, from your back, guess what? They're going to be a little bit more cautious, right? They're not going to be as comfortable being this aggressive because of the potential of going to the outside. And what does that mean? When they have more trepidation in their play, when they're more hesitant, that opens up your offense to do what it wants to do. But you have to punish them first, right? And this is the punishing aspect. You have to punish them for their aggressiveness. And then based off of that, they may react differently next time. And then you can take advantage of them in other ways. So I really like the play calling, really like how the solution here isn't to just bash your head against it. We're going to break through. Take the yards, attack the edges, and make ECU aware of the deficiencies of their approach in certain areas. Let me see here. Am I too old school, or is Edwards jumping out of bounds early? This seems to happen a lot these days. Sam Samuels, this is a good point, and I was thinking about this while I was mowing the lawn today. I'm a runner, right? And whenever I go out for a run, I have to think about what is the objective of this run. And I think for a running back, or for most players, what is the objective of this game? What is the objective? Stay healthy, win the game, get your reps, get up to speed, get that game feel, and stay healthy. Okay. This isn't a game where you really need to be fighting for every single yard. Excuse me. But of course you want players to do their best, but for certain players like JJ McCarthy, Donovan Edwards, Blake Corum, I agree. It's not old school of picking up every available yard, but you have to understand at this point it's 30-0. All right. And there are certain career health decisions that you should be making at this point in the game. So I think it does happen a lot. It happens a lot more, but I think the game is so much faster, so much more risky in certain ways that it's really important. And I think, John, I didn't even read your comment. Saw a lot of fans giving Edwards flack for stepping out. Staying healthy is the most important thing. That's it. And you're right, Sam, that running backs get hard contact every time they carry the ball. But there's a certain aspect of you can still limit it within a certain scenario, right? If you're at the goal line, you're going to take those hits, right? And that's the time to fight for the extra yards instead of going out of bounds. But when you pick up the first down, what's the difference between 12 and 13 yards, right? You may call me soft or whatever for saying that. But at this point in the game, when it's 30-0, you know, could he have got an extra couple yards cut back? Maybe. And I get it. When it's 30-0 versus 0-0, I'll agree with you, Sam. I'll agree with you that if it's 0-0, work for the yards, right? Get that lead before you start to sort of milk the game a little bit in this scenario. So I agree. There's a balance there. And I truly think the answer is maybe at this point, you can start to get your backups in there, right? And that's when you can start to fight for those extra yards and get those guys really those reps where when you get to those depth, right, those guys can prove themselves and they can fight for those extra yards, and you're less worried about those guys necessarily getting hurt. So there's a balance there. I understand that viewpoint. And I don't think there is a true right answer here. Okay, so this was, I think, called holding. But this was another case where I thought Blake Corum left some yards on the field, right? It's 30-0. I still think this is the point where you need to be subbing out some players. But this is where I think it was rare for this to not be a huge gain, right? This is pretty well blocked. It's a simple off tackle run here. Keegan gets a good block. You got Barnhart getting out to the second level. Good block here on the second level. So really this becomes a one-on-one battle. One-on-one battle right here between this safety and Blake Corum. It's blocked really well on the backside. No one's coming through. So pause it right here. What do we usually see Blake Corum do in this scenario, right? Usually you see him get right up to about right here, and the safety would get right up to about here, and you see a little gear down. This is meant to represent like a little gear down for Blake Corum. Force this guy to commit one way or the other, right? Because this safety has to go either here or get to the outside. You're blocked here. So Blake Corum is usually almost 100% of the time going to make this happen, right? He's going to make this guy commit, boom, and then he's going to bust the outside and make this a big play. So remember that earlier play where Blake Corum cut back, and I said he needed to be a little bit more sudden. Instead of look for a cutback, do the one cut and go, right? Be a little bit more decisive. Here, I think he might have taken that a little bit too. Maybe that was a point where Mike Hart got in his ear and said, "Hey, you're being a little bit too hesitant. Like, put your foot in the ground and go. I know you can go." So he doesn't try to put on as much of a move on the safety as I thought he would. Maybe he's trying. It looks like he might be trying to sell the outside with his eyes. He's looking to the outside a little bit more, maybe hoping this guy will overcommit. Give credit. This safety does a good job. Right? He does a good job breaking down, knows the difference. He's starting to gear down here and match the cutback there of Blake Corum and force Corum off his feet. So I would like Blake Corum to be able to distinguish between those types of plays, right? Notice when he has a little bit more room here to be able to put on a shimmy and make this guy miss, and a little bit more time to maybe cut to the outside here. Good block from Barner, doing a pretty good job there. I think he just left a little bit yards. There's a little bit potential on the outside if you can get that safety to commit. And then right here, right? Boom, this guy's already committing. Boom, go to the outside and pick up a big gain. Back on this topic, I understand the point of staying healthy. You practice how you play. Don't want to develop the habit of jumping up too early. But yeah, 30-0, first down, move onward. Yeah, but here's the thing, Stam, and I'm going to bring running back into it, right? If I ran hard every single day, I ran quite a bit, I wouldn't be able to run. If I were doing track intervals or a really high effort run every single day, I would get hurt. It would just be too much for me to do that. So in this case, you have to treat certain games as get through it, right? You can still practice. You can still get out there. You can still put 80%. And I guess what I mean by in this case, it's not a perfect analogy, but you can still put 100% into your runs, but then not put your body on the line for that extra yard and step out a little early, right? So you're always supposed to be giving 100%, and you still can up until the end, right? And that end is the bulk of the wear and tear on your body of getting hit. So again, I don't think there's any right answer. There are just certain scenarios where it makes less sense than others to put that wear and tear on your body. But I do get your point that some injuries can be random, but I do think putting yourself in the best position to have a healthy season is ultimately what you want out of these games. You want health. You want people to be able to build on each performance. And Michigan, I think Darius Clemens maybe re-aggravate a little bit of an injury, but I think this is a great example of this, Sam Stamos, and I really do want your opinion on what you would like for JJ McCarthy to do on this play, because I think it's important, right? Especially for a guy like JJ McCarthy staying healthy. That's the season. If he's gone, then the season, you don't want to say it's over. I like Darius Warren. I like your backups, but you don't have the same ceiling. So let's focus on the blocking first. What happens here to force JJ McCarthy out of the pocket here? All right, so you're really only bringing 3, technically 4, because you're only bringing 3 initially, and there's pressure here, and it's unacceptable, this play, because look at how many bodies Michigan has: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they're only bringing 3, and you get pressure. 3 against 7. That's not okay. There's no reason for Nugent here to be looking to his left. Okay. Where does Nugent think the pressure is coming from? Right. I guess he might have thought this guy creeping up. Right. But even so, right. That's where the eyes of Barnhart is here on the outside. Right. So he's thinking there's going to be a body coming here. But even so, 1, 2, and this is your third. Right. Where is he looking? Right. He should be accounted for, even if this guy did come. Right. And then you had, say Barnhart takes this guy on, you have Keegan taking this guy on. This is Drake Nugent's guy, right? Stay on him, right? Where else are you looking to the left here? There's not going to be an extra body there. So this is Nugent just freaking out a little bit. He's passing him off to nobody, and it puts Inter in a really difficult position. So yeah, not great, right? To have that. And then because that forces, on the outside here, again, what do we say? Like 10 yards is generally pretty good. So this guy getting around this deep, I'm not concerned about that, right? We're at the 48. This is the 42. So this is, about 10 yards. This guy getting depth around 10 yards, that shouldn't be an issue. This is plenty of good pocket if this guy is appropriately dealt with. So yeah, Nugent doesn't do a great job, and that puts Inter in an impossible position. That forces JJ McCarthy out of the pocket, right? On a 3-man rush with 7-man in protecting. So right here, if you're JJ McCarthy, you're putting yourself in harm's way, right? Clear targeting, guy gets ejected, but don't leave your feet, man. Again, 30-0, first game of the year, 2nd and 20. You don't need to be doing this, right? You don't. What would you like to see in this scenario? I throw it away right now, right? Throw it away right now and run out of bounds, right? Or go down or whatever. Just even slide, honestly. I don't like to slide. Maybe just dive. But this is a scenario where, again, hits on the body, especially as a quarterback, limit them in this scenario, right? If it's 0-0, okay. But 30-0, no reason. No reason to do that, right? What's to gain here? Of course, you can get a touchdown, sure. But that's just, it's really scary. It's really terrifying. So yeah. And this is, I don't want to be hypercritical of a single player, but you'd expect Nugent to be a little bit better than that. So, this is good to put on film and to learn from. But that's, the broadcast was like, oh, I don't see how this is targeting whatever. And I'm like, what are you looking at? Broadcast was crazy talking like that. Like, that is terrifying. That's a terrifying hit. And you never want your quarterback to be exposed to that sort of hit. So when I talk about mileage and avoiding your hit, right? How is this game any different if at this point right here, you throw the ball away instead of taking that hit? Right? Jumping off your feet, even run out of bounds, just slide out of bounds, whatever. So there are certain things running back, you could argue is a little bit different than quarterback, but I think I did a tweet where I'm like, it's probably time to take the starters out. And then this happened. I'm like, it's time to take the starters out. And that's kind of where we ended up here. Okay, so it says 36:30 on the screen here. We're getting towards the end of the starter place. Only 2 more plays here before we take off. But yeah, this was it was 30-0. They called a touchdown for Donovan Edwards, I think on second down, reviewed it. He was like half a yard short, not able to get the third down. Now this is fourth down, and they were just a little sped up here, right? Just a little bit sped up. I think there was some frustration probably going on, right? And the snap was a little weird. If you see how the snap hits the hands of McCarthy, that's a weird position to receive the ball, to try to put it into the belly of the running back. Now, do I think there was possibility of JJ McCarthy keeping it? I doubt it. I doubt they would keep the ball in JJ McCarthy's hands in this scenario. But maybe. But yeah, another scenario where sped up a little bit, right? I would have to go back and look at all of the snaps from Jake Nugent to see how often JJ McCarthy was receiving snaps that come at that angle, right? It seems a little bit off. So anyway, just unfortunate, right? I think they were sped up. They kept kind of going back to the line, doing the same thing. And this one was just a little bit too fast. So I think that's just a really awkward angle to receive the ball, right? You try to catch a ball that's coming at that angle. It's really weird. Seems really difficult. So he's not able to handle it, and it's just a bummer, right? Would he have gotten it? Would you like to see the offensive line be able to push their way in on first, second, and third and goal? Yeah. But to me, this is always just a shit show, right? Because the defensive line is just spearheading, right? They're just throwing their helmets at the knees of the offensive line. It's always a shit show. So I think there's not a whole lot to learn from this, right? This is a game where you're not going to bring out a lot of your creative goal line sets. I would like to see more of like a Benjamin Hall, more of a Khalil Mullings, even an Alex Orji in this scenario, just to bring a little bit more variability and get them the snaps and the wear and tear at the goal line rather than Donovan Edwards. But you also want your guys to be able to score, right? You want to give them those points, give them that glory. So I get it both ways, but frustrating to not end the game on a higher note. You'd like to see them get in the end zone after 4 tries on the half-yard line. Just wasn't able to work out there. It was a rush play. Seemed like they did that last year against TCU. Yeah, that was another thing on the fullback dive, right? I think that was to Khalil Mullings where he fumbled around the goal line, and that's not okay, right? And in these scenarios, my thing is always QB sneak. Just QB sneak it, right? But I think this is also the case where it's 30-0, and they don't want to put their starting, star quarterback in a scenario where he's getting bull rushed into and could potentially get piled up on and twisted in a weird way. So unfortunate play, but it is what it is. Okay, 3rd and 10, and I had to end it on this play because it's Kenneth Grant, man. And this is, again, Kenneth Grant just absolutely mauling a guy. So I had to just end it with Kenneth Grant just being a monster because I can't believe this pass set, right? So you have Josiah Stewart transfer from Coastal Carolina. You have Derek Moore. These are your edge rushers. They're just running straight off the edge here on the pass rush. And then you got Cam Good and Kenneth Grant. Both these guys are pushing. I think Cam Good is like 330 at least. I know Kenneth Grant is like 340. But Cam Good is going to be, again, sort of like the fullback where he's just go at the center here, try to take both of these offensive linemen out. And then Kenneth Grant's going to wait a little bit and then loop around into that vacant space left from Cam Good. So watching the interior defensive line here, there's Cam Good, right? Attack that A gap. Just go right here. Boom. Occupy 2 guys. Kenneth Grant, loop around him. There's open space here. And barrel down. And this is Kenneth Grant's one of his best skills. Look at the closing speed of the big man. He just fires out. Once he gets around, they're designing these stunts for Kenneth Grant. And it's crazy because how often do you see stunts created for a 340-pound guy, let alone keeping him in there on 3rd and 10, obvious passing down, right? He is a plus in the passing game. Like, without a doubt, he is an asset in the passing game. So it's just really fun. I thought it would take another year for him to get there. He is already so fun to watch, and he's huge. To have that lateral quickness and then the vertical quickness, I mean, he is moving there. It's in slow motion, but I'll play it in fast motion again. It's terrifying to watch him move. So here's the full speed version again. That is fast. That is quick for a guy 340 pounds. I don't care who you are. That's terrifying. It's terrifying. Exactly as John says. Again, we have the same mind here. Just terrifying to see a 340-pound mammoth of a man barrel down at you full speed like that. So, yeah, it's funny really watching the eyes of the quarterback. I think it's Garcia back in here at this point. As soon as he sees Kenneth Grant right here, right, he notices, he's like, okay, I'm out. He gets smoked. So yeah, I just want to end with that because Kenneth Grant was the highest graded defender for the day for the Wolverines by quite some margin. And he showed it. He is an asset in the passing game, executed these. There were multiple of these. So this wasn't an isolated incident. They set him up really well, and he is a monster. Okay, that's all I have. Let's get into any questions you guys had, anything that you wanted me to discuss, anything that's on your mind. Kung Fu Panda, that's terrifying. I like it. That's a good one. Dylan Girk really seemed like pass rush was lacking, but had a lot to do with them getting rid of the ball. Yeah, and in the first part yesterday with Trevor, we walked through the Mike Sainristil interception, right? And that was something that Kenneth Grant, again, very similar defensive set here, causing a lot of pressure and forcing an underthrow from the quarterback off his back foot that found its way into Mike Sainristil's hands. And without that pressure, that throw probably isn't as inaccurate as it was. So I think the pass rush, the lack of sacks is something to watch, right? I think it's expected to be a bit better than it was last year. But I think we'll see how that continues to develop. Sam Stamos, I think shocked is a better term, not enough time to discern terror. That's true. Quarterback might be like, how is this planet-sized human approaching this quickly? A team that the QB thinks they should scramble. I believe we get some sacks on the board. I think so. Do I think Blake looked like the old Blake? I think physically, I still saw the cutting, the elusiveness out of Blake Corum. I think his mind and his decision-making was off in a way I haven't seen before out of him. He almost always maximized the amount of yards on the field on any given play, and I didn't see that in this game. I think he's mentally fighting a little bit. I think he has to be sped back up mentally. So physically, I think there are a couple of runs where people were like, oh, we got caught at the 2-yard line, right, on one of his longer runs. I think that was pretty on par with what I saw last year, where he doesn't have the speed he had in 2021 because he bulked up 15, 20 pounds, right? And add in this offseason where he's able to put on more muscle, but how much time did he actually have to work on his conditioning and his speed overall? So maybe he lost half a step, but not noticeable, but his decision-making of when to cut, when to put his foot in the ground, when to actually make those moves, that's something that I still want to see him get better at, and something that was rare to see him not fully up to speed. So I think that'll come with time. I'm not worried about him physically because there were a couple cuts that he did make in the backfield that you wouldn't be able to make unless you have a fully healthy knee. So I'm not worried about it. I think he'll get better over time. Maybe he lost half a step just because he bulked up and didn't have as much time on his feet through the spring to continue to keep that conditioning, keep that overall speed. But I don't think it's anything noticeable, and I think he'll still be an 800 to 1,000 yard running back, if not better than that. Any week one overreactions to avoid? It's one game, right? And I think on both sides, I remember it was Josh and Trevor and Brock on their post-game podcast talking about you can't overreact either way, on the good or the bad, right? I think the offensive line, there are some concerns in the run game. I think that'll sort itself out. You have a couple games here, the Michigan method, right? You're going to have Ladarius Henderson, Trent Jones, Carson Barnhart, and Miles Hinton all rotating. I think Nugent still needs to get comfortable. There's not a whole lot of Oluwatimi guys out there, right? That's a pure pro center, and those guys are just rare. So I think it'll take a little bit of time for these transfers to get used to this offensive line and to really gel as a unit. And the offensive line was more set in stone last year than this year. So it makes sense that things aren't as clean as they were right off the bat last year. So I think it'll just take some time. And then the pass rush, I think it'll resolve itself. I really, really like this defensive line, the interior especially. And I think one of Josiah Stewart, Braden McGregor, and Derek Moore are really going to develop into a plus pass rusher, more so than we saw last year on the outside. So I think across the board, this was more than acceptable. You look at Michigan State, you look at Ohio State, you look at a lot of other teams that were really struggling. And I wouldn't call this game where Michigan was struggling. There was some sloppiness, right? I think both the defensive backs and the passing game on Michigan's side were ahead of where I thought they would be. But again, it's one game. So there are trends, right? It's good to write these things down or to have these things in your mind to watch for the next game. Like watching the offensive tackles next game is going to be a big one. Continuing to see if Keon Sabb has a good game, who rotates in at safety. What is the health of those guys, right? Those are key things to keep in mind and continue to watch. But nothing that I'm overly concerned about overall. Derek Campbell here. I think their plan was not to let Michigan get home to the QB. Also, they had no shot at a big play without a short pass and a long run. That's a good call out there. They were known for their D-line, ECU, and they did a good job defending the run. I'll give them a lot of credit. They were really aggressive. They were selling out, but I think they did better against the run than a lot of people would give them credit for. And I think, Michigan's offensive line, you can discredit them a little bit, but you also have to give a little bit of credit to ECU. I thought they performed relatively well. JJ should have run for that first touchdown. That really should have gotten called back. Yeah, he could have thrown a little earlier or run for the first down. Agree with that. H. Crippen gets a shot in the next two games, rotate in like the tackles. That's a great question, John. I'm not sure because it's one thing to rotate a tackle. For a center, you want that cohesion to make those calls. You know how the center likes to call certain blitzes. You get that rapport. Nothing is more valuable on the offensive line than consistency at center position for calling that out. So I would like them to continue to see Nugent and to try to continue to get that, right? If it continues to be an issue and we don't see improvement in game 2, right? From game 1 to game 2, if we don't see improvement, then I think you could give Crippen a shot in game 3. But I don't think it's going to be a traditional rotate. I think it's going to be keep Nugent in unless we see lack of improvement, and then you could see it. You could see that. Think of the pressure also on Nugent Hinton coming in to be part of the 2-time Joe Moore award-winning line. The problems will be fixed. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of pressure. It's one of the more difficult positions to play, bar none. Sam Stamos, I didn't follow many of the offseason roster moves. What's your take on Atterbury at DT? This was one I didn't follow this that closely either, so I might not be the best person to talk to this. Generally, with a position change like this, it's probably the case where he was looking. It's one of two things. Either he wanted to see the field quicker, and defensive tackle in the future has a quicker path for him. It could mean they're not as enthused about the potential of the future at defensive tackle and need to add more bodies, experienced bodies. It could mean a lot of things. Right now, I'm not reading too much into it. So in this case, Michigan has such great depth at offensive line where this could be, hey, I'm not seeing the playing time I want here. I have experience at defensive tackle, or you see some promise here. What about giving this a shot for a season, half a season, see where this goes? Could be as simple as that. It could be there's no path from the offensive line, right? And this is your only shot to make an impact on this team. It could be that level as well, but I don't have the intel to make that distinction. William Flanagan, what about the kicker? Missed a PAT, something to worry about during the season. College kickers are weird, right? They are. we got spoiled by Jake Moody, automatic money Moody. And that's something that's not guaranteed, right? We're really fortunate to have Moody for as long as we did. And again, it's one game. It's one game. You never like to see a guy with a missed PAT, and a couple of the PATs were shaky, right? A lot of his kicks came out low. But I think we also have a new holder this year, right? And possibly a new snapper. So the whole unit, right, needs to find consistency, because James Turner did set a new career long at 50 yards, right? His previous long was 49 at Louisville. So Turner being able to hit that, and that ball hit the net, right? That was an exceptional field goal. So he has the ability, right? It's just about consistency and being able to teach that. So in my prediction, I think it'll get better. I doubt there's going to be a consistent missed PAT. That's rare for a kicker of his skill. But something to look at, right? How often, what will his kicks look like, right? And for future PATs, I'm not going to be looking at, did he miss, did he make? I'm going to look at how high on the net was it, right? How comfortable is the operation? Are the holds, are the snaps, is everything there doing well? What does that look like? So, give him some more game reps. I'm not worried about it yet, but it's definitely, one of those areas to look at and to continue to watch. If you see, again, you're looking for trends. If this is a 2-week, 3-week thing that's ongoing, becomes a concern. 1 week is something to watch. So that's where I'm at. Speed and athleticism of the younger DBs. Great point, Shadyville. Yeah. Keon Sabb being able to be an impact player. He's the second highest graded player in the defense. Excellent day for him. Being able to punch out the ball. We covered that in episode 1 with Trevor. He has some great plays, and he looked like he belonged. And that's the thing, as a young safety, to be able to do that, to not look out of place, is exceptional. And that really bodes well for the future. And then the guys coming in from UMass, right? Josh Wallace, you got Keyshawn Harris as well, with Will Johnson and Rod Moore out, for the defensive backfield to be that steady, not giving up any big plays. And that's another thing, being aligned correctly, not giving up any huge busts. Really big. It looked like they belonged. And of course, that's opponent dependent, right? ECU didn't have the best passing attack, but there were some good throws there. And being able to look comfortable, not commit a bunch of penalties, those things matter. And that shows a level of comfort and the great coaching of Steve Klingscale and the ability for the players to really take that in stride. Thanks for your input. You do good work. Thank you, Sam. Always great to be here. Appreciate you coming and hanging out. Derek Campbell, it's crazy. I was watching the PSU at Michigan game earlier. Mullings made a pretty key play at linebacker. Crazy how fast he goes from defense to maybe third running back. I should add a link. I did a review of his play from high school, his high school film. I did this feature. It was like freshman feature, I think I called it. And I wanted him at running back. I really did. There were a couple programs that were looking at him at running back, and I really liked his vision, his physicality. I thought he would make for a really good running back. So I'm happy he's at the position. It's just how much of a role can he carve out? Special teams in general need to step it up. I really dislike the punt return unit. Yeah, we'll see, because we saw that last year, right? We had a walk-on also fielding punts. I think it was Caden Colasar, right, who was fielding punts early on. And then we had AJ Henning, I think, who took over that role. So we'll see. I expect it to improve. Thaw is not it. Play the freshman. It's, again, a level of consistency. How consistent are you at being able to catch the ball? And that's where in practice, if you're not able to field a punt cleanly, you're not going to be in the game. And I think we did see late in the game, was it Carmelo English, who eventually did start returning punts? That might be a guy who you start there. Okay, a couple more questions. Got to take off in a couple minutes here. Worst case scenario, just have someone back there who can fair catch and not let it hit the ground. Yeah, that first punt was rough, right? Because it set Michigan up on their own goal line. That's not what you want to see. Those kicks were strange low line kicks. Yeah. But let's give some credit to Tommy Doman on the kickoff duties and punt. It seems like we haven't lost a step in the punt game. So that's one thing to be thankful for, that Tommy Doman is here and seems like a plus punter already. Just need someone to catch it with this offense. I assume account 22, you're talking about the punt return. Cole Cabana might take the job when he gets healthy. That'd be fun to see. Wonder if Henning regrets transferring to Northwestern. I feel for the guy. I really feel for him, right? He transferred in Northwestern. It seemed like, and it still seems like he's going to get plenty of touches over there. Just a bummer with, with the hazing and getting, why do I keep wanting to say Pat Fitzgerald? I kept wanting to say Scott Fitzgerald. It's like, I don't think that was his name. But Pat Fitzgerald out of the program. It's tough to transfer to a program and everything be turned upside down on you like that. So I feel for him, but hope he can carve out a role and have a successful rest of his time in college football with the Wildcats there. My guess, Henning was unhappy here. And that's the thing with transfers, right? Overall, you don't want someone in your program who's unhappy. That's not good for a locker room. It's not good for the player. It's not good for anybody. So if they want out, let them out, right? Let them find somewhere where they are wanted, where they are comfortable. It's better off for everyone for them to be able to find that home. Okay, I'm going to take off. Thank you all for joining. Again, michigan.rivals.com. Come on into the den, the board that we have. There should be some subscribing deal that we have over there. If you check the site, I'm sure there's a promotion going on. You can ask Trevor or Josh. You can follow me on Twitter or X. Is that what people are calling it these days? I don't know. I'm an old man. At Osentoski over there. But yeah, hopefully, I'm not sure next week if I'll be doing this, definitely the week after, but I'll be around. So thank you all for coming by. If you missed part 1, check the YouTube channel for part 1 with Trevor. But hope to see you guys rest of the season. And take care. Have a good rest of your Labor Day. Have a good rest of your week. All right, go Blue.